Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 35.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to bringing you useful information on custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to take your game to new heights. Well, this morning I am tickled pink to be able to let you hear the interview I did this weekend with Adam Young from Adam Young Golf. Adam is the author of The Practice Manual, which is, in my view, is the most interesting and valuable golf improvement book that's been written this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't become a classic. So I truly hope you'll enjoy this interview. I had a lot of fun doing it, and Adam provided a lot of great information. But just a quick thing before we go into the interview. I mentioned in the course of the interview that one of the things that Adam does is a terrific blog. He blogs at least once or twice a week, and each one of those posts is a great one. Now, you can go on his website to get those blog posts and read them, but there's also an app you can download on your smartphone called Feedly, and also set up Feedly on your computer so that you can pick different websites and blog posts where the blogs will download directly to your smartphone, and you can read them from your smartphone or your iPad or things like that. I've used this for quite a long time, and it's a great little app, and it puts everything all in one place. So something to consider if you're looking for a way to easily get to look at some of the great blog posts that Adam does. So, without further ado, I hope again that you really enjoy this podcast interview with Adam Young, the author of The Practice Manual. Hello, this is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast, and it is a terrific pleasure today to talk with Adam Young. Adam has written what I consider a land-breaking book in terms of golf improvement, The Practice Manual, the ultimate guide for golfers. He currently teaches at the Ledbetter Academy in La Manga, I guess that's how to pronounce it, resort in Spain.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah. He spent a lot of years, this is really interesting to me, one of the most interesting things, researching psychology, nutrition, biology, neuropsychology. I mean, it's evident in his book, Evolutionary Learning, Motor Learning Theory, and Skill Acquisition. But he's done this to try to combine this knowledge with the technical elements of golf instruction, although I think these are some of the technical elements too, to help golfers improve the way they learn and their potential to achieve, what they desire to do. So, Adam, thanks for doing this today. I think golfers are going to really have a lot of fun. And my big interest is helping people change their paradigm about how they practice. So it's a delight to talk with you today.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Well, we'll start off with, obviously you've done things a lot different than many instructors. Although, and I know a few that are doing some things like this. I don't know if you know a guy in Germany, Mike McFadden. But how did you sort of get into learning about the science of effective practice? Obviously, you must be somebody who likes to learn lots of things. But talk about that for a few minutes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I loved to practice as a kid. I mean, I think I came into golf instruction very differently to how other instructors did. I was a very technical player when I was learning because I started golf at 15 years old. So I got every book I could out of the library. And I think most other teachers were maybe started a lot younger, didn't have a lot of technique thrown at them. And then later on, when they became teachers, they started researching technique. So I've almost gone the complete other way around. I've almost thrown out a lot of the technique, or not thrown it out, but changed my philosophy on how to actually learn the technique. So I know lots of people probably associate me as a non-technical instructor, but being part of the Leadbetter Academy, that's obviously not true.
Yeah.
But I look to get those better techniques in maybe a different way to how other coaches do. I suppose the question of how did I start in the science of learning? It almost found me in a way. I mean, out of necessity from instructing. As a very young instructor, when I started 21 years old, people would have lessons with me, but if I didn't get instant results, they would not have another lesson with me.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of stems from the fact that, I'll try this kid out. If he works, then it works. If not, then I'll go to one of the more experienced instructors, which is fair enough. So I got very good at getting instant results. But what I started to notice was, in a way of getting instant results, I was also seeing when my players would come back a few weeks later, I'd go, this swing's changed also. We didn't work on that. So say, for example, one of the drills I used a lot was the nail drill, I call it. So it's a golf ball with a nail through it. So if I wanted to change someone's swing path, for example, rather than go through this whole rigmarole of you have to move your hips this way, you have to move your shoulders this way, you have to bring your hands down in this direction, which is all correct. But rather than do it that way, which I consider indirect, what I started doing was just placing a nail on the ground or a golf ball with a nail through it and just saying, could you hit this for me in this direction? And almost instantly, you would see, instantly, not almost instantly, you'd see a complete different movement of the entire body. And that started me thinking, wait there, what am I changing here? How did all that change? I don't understand this. And it led me on to researching about psychology, about concepts, which led into motor learning science then. But to be honest, I started just blogging about my experiences as an instructor and putting my ideas out there without knowing fully what the correct terminology was. So, I would say you've got chipping. And I knew that telling people, okay, keep your feet together, have your ball here, lean the shaft like this, do this with your hands, do this with your body, not all at once, obviously, but that didn't seem to have the effect that I wanted to. Whereas if I just said, okay, just brush the grass here, all of a sudden they pop the ball up in the air and they go, oh, that's amazing. And
you're a brilliant instructor, right? Yeah,
right. But it was almost out of frustration, really, that I used to say that. I just brush the grass here, and then they'd hit it, and I go, oh, you know what? This goes completely against how I think about golf because of being a very technical player.
Yeah.
So I used to blog about that, and I used to call that, I think, external or versus internal thoughts and things like that. And then I found out later that there was a lot of research done on it by Gabrielle Wolf on different locuses of focus or locus of attention, where you place your attention, whether it's inside your body or whether it's outside of your body, such as on brushing the grass. So it almost found me in a way by, after my blogs were put out, people would contact me and say, oh, you must have been influenced by this person or this research. And I said, actually, no, but I'll have a look at it. And then I read it, think, oh, yeah, this fits with exactly what I'm finding. So that's how most of the research I've come across has found me in a way, which I know is not the best way. I'm actively now, last 4 or 5 years, actively researching or looking at research rather than letting it just find me. But I'm doing my own as well, informally. I know the true scientists, and I agree with them, the true scientists won't like that, but it helps me to test, is this really working? Is it not working? And lots of things I've tested and found out that, oh, actually this happens. And then I think, oh, okay, well, it is what it is, so let's do it.
Obviously golfers have misconceptions about how to practice. Can you talk about why you think they have these kinds of misconceptions?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote a blog post this morning actually on this. So I suppose one of the biggest misconceptions is perfect practice makes perfect. So I think that's born out of a lot of the books that are out at the moment. The idea of the 10,000 hour rule, and just that saying, it was ingrained into me. Perfect practice makes perfect. So obviously I would stand there on the range trying to make the same swing over and over again, which if you put enough hours into it, yeah, you'll get something out of it, but it's not the most efficient way of learning. So there's something called differential practice as well, which is actually practicing things that are not what you want to do. So, for example, towing the ball intentionally or heeling the ball intentionally. You'd think, well, why would I want to do that? And if you told me 15 years ago, Adam, try this, I would have thought you're a mad person. But there's research out there, and I've done my own research on it as well, directly related to golf. And you can learn much quicker certain things by doing the wrong things. That's not to say that should be all of what you do. There should be a little bit of calibrating what you want also. So say, for example, one of the studies I did while I was in Austria, I asked one group of beginners to try and hit the center of the face over and over and over. So they all got the same information, it's trying to hit the center of the face. And one group, I told them to practice hitting toe and heel shots only. And that group actually improved their ability to hit the center more than the ones who are trying to hit the center, which is like, whoa, what's going on there? But, this is pure anecdote, but I believe that it improves your ability to edit your own swing. So if you have the ability to hit wherever you want on the club face, then why wouldn't that transfer into hitting the center? Yeah,
because then you can direct yourself to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas the players are only trying one thing over and over. It's great when they're doing it, but if they have a day where, and we all know it, we're on the golf course playing fine, and then all of a sudden maybe a shank creeps in, or maybe I shouldn't have said that word for most listeners, but how do you deal with that? If you don't have the ability to change things, you're stuck until you get off the golf course to see your teacher. Whereas, preparing for this inevitable problem that pops up on the golf course is actually very valuable, even if you never really use it.
Yeah.
That idea of practice makes perfect. It's not the right way of doing it. It'll get you somewhere, but there are more efficient ways or more other methods that you can use. Why do I think people have those misconceptions? I think it's cultural. I mean, we all get taught you've got to do it this way, you've got to do it that way. But I mean, if you look at kids, and they play, they play for a reason. What is play? Play is experimenting. It's exploring boundaries, exploring things that you might not necessarily use, but you go, oh, okay, I found something there. Not that a kid is doing that consciously, but so play is our way of learning quicker, and we kind of get rid of that as we get older in favor of, no, you have to do everything the perfect way. And so we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot by that, I think.
Well, and we all see people just going out and banging balls, and I'd love to go up and jump to them and say, there's a better way, but yeah, I also don't like to tell people what to do if I can avoid it. But now
it depends what you want with that. Yeah. I mean, with banging balls, I occasionally do it because it's fun. Sometimes I have a practice session and I just want to have fun. Yeah. And talking about the misconceptions, there's another one there of performance and learning. So, when you're banging ball after ball after ball, you might be performing really well, which is enjoyable, but you're not learning much as you're doing it. And really, there's this battle. Everybody wants to perform well on the range because that's when they feel they're learning. But if you randomize your practice a bit more, you might perform worse, but you would be learning much quicker, and you'd have the ability to transfer that to the golf course also.
So to accept then that you might perform worse, but play better. I mean, maybe that's part of the culture too, right?
Yeah. I mean, these are almost instinctive in a way. If we feel like we're hitting the ball great on the range, we think, right, yeah, that's awesome. I've just learned something there. It might be, as the analogy is, asking yourself the same maths question over and over again. Sure, you're going to come out with the right answer all the time, but what are you learning? You're not going through that calculation. And every golf shot is, it's a maths question. It's a calculation. What's the wind doing? How far is this? What swing do I need to put on this? What lie have I got? So, yeah, it's if you ask yourself the same question over and over, you might come up with the same answer or the right answer, but you won't be learning much.
Yeah. Now, you did mention one of the, this was going to be the next question, but we'll sort of expand on it. One of the experiments that you have done related to, being a little different about how to practice and learn. You want to talk about maybe one or two other experiments that you think are some of the ones that listeners will be maybe surprised at, but some of the things where you learn things.
Yeah, I posted one recently. I do a lot with strike on the face, just because they're quite easy to quantify and easy to do. So one of the ones that I did recently was I would take players with a definite pattern. So say, for example, you have a shanker, and I would split them into one of two groups. I would either ask them to move 2 centimeters further away and make the same swing, or I would ask them to try and hit the other side of the face. So you would think logically that if you just moved 2 centimeters further away and made the same swing, you would hit it from the center, or you'd at least hit it 2 centimeters more towards the toe. This didn't happen. and why doesn't it happen? Well, this is pure theory, but lots of it goes into that motor learning science of, we call it perception action coupling. So what your perception is and how you respond to that. So, for example, if you tell someone to get further away from it, they're going to feel further away from it, so their perception has changed, and that's going to influence their action. What I found was a lot of people actually increased their shank rate by moving further away, which goes completely against what you would think. Some people got better with it, so there is this element of individuality here. But the better one by far, the better group by far, were the ones who tried to hit it out of the different part of the club. So it's kind of a differential practice drill in a way, trying to hit the opposite. And that improved their ability to strike the club face much better. And, it's a little uncomfortable at first to try and hit it out a different part of the face. But what people don't realize is that over time, your brain adapts and you don't feel like you're doing that. It's called perceptual adaptation. So even though something's uncomfortable at first, it doesn't feel that way forever. It's like if you make a grip change, or if you've made a grip change in the past, obviously it feels horrendous when you first do it. But after a while, your perceptions adapt. Or even if people have never made a swing change before, getting into a new car, it might feel horrible at first, but you drive it enough and all of a sudden it's comfortable. So, that's one of the studies I've done. I've been doing little informal ones, not really quantifying them, unfortunately, at the moment, which I should be doing. But I'm seeing a lot of promise with gamifying certain things. So, say, for example, I ask someone to do something and I'll watch them, I'll give them a little run at it. And there's not really a lot of change. There is a change in a positive direction, but not really a lot of change.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I say, right, we're going to do 10 balls and we're going to count how many you do it successfully, or we'll put it on a scale. And all of a sudden there's this massive amount of improvement in it. And each successive set, you get more and more improvement to a point. So that idea of just making your practice into a game, I don't know exactly what it is, whether it's improving focus but it's much better than just beating balls, even just beating balls while you're trying to change things. So yeah, I'm going to do a study on that, definitely. But I've already seen it's working. So I've been seeing that for years, and quite dramatically as well. So it's not. I know the outcome already before I start. I know that's not how science should be done, but we'll see.
That's right. Well, since I at least did a lot attempt to focus on short game in my website and things I do, can you talk a little bit about some of the specific things that you help people work on, or ways you approach practicing the short game?
Yeah, I think depending on the problem, obviously, if some people have really poor technical problems, then we'll address that. How you address the technical problems, that's up to the coach, and obviously I would do it maybe a little different to other coaches, but sometimes I would do it the same as well. I'm not averse to jumping in and saying, look, move this way, if I feel that's going to help. And I think that's where thousands and thousands of hours of experience will always trump, in a way, will always trump all the knowledge in the world. It's some coaches just know what to do just by looking. I'm sure Butch Harmon might not know exactly the technicalities of what he's doing sometimes, but he'll probably say the right thing more often than not, just from instinct. But in terms of chipping, if I have a good player who can clearly do the shots, they can hit a good golf shot, but when they get on the course, it kind of falls apart. Then I know that it's not a case of building a better motion. The way I see it, there's two ways of looking at it. You can either build a better and better motion, or you can improve your ability to access that motion that you already own. So if you have the ability to hit a shot, keep working on how you do that more often. And they're very, very separate ways of doing it. But yeah, a good game to play would be par 18. I don't know if you know it. So you drop 9 balls around the green in different lies. Maybe pick 3 mediums, 3 difficults, and 3 easy lies. And then you chip and putt each ball, just like you would on the golf course. And you get a score at the end of it. Obviously, the ultimate for that would be to get par 18, where you get every single one up and down. So it's quantifiable. For a start, you get to see your score. You can keep doing it week after week and see if your scores are improving. And it's also a bit randomized. You're not standing there hitting the same chip over and over again. Hitting from different lies each time. It's broken up a little bit. It's pressurized in a way. What people find a lot of the time, maybe not the first couple of times of doing it, but definitely when they get to their weekly record, they're like, if I get this up and down, this is the best one I've done all week. You're inducing pressure there, and it's a completely different mindset. How often do players actually have pressure when they're practicing? And also, you'll tend to use the same attention, and this is really important as well. You tend to use the same attention when you're practicing these drills as to what you would use on the golf course. So I'll give you an example of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So someone's practicing on the course. They're thinking about, maybe their swing or something technically they're working on during the chip shot. But they're thinking of the swing, which is an internal focus. Then they get onto the golf course. All of a sudden, the result becomes important. Now what are they thinking of? They're thinking of the target. They're thinking of the result. That's a different attention. They're literally, their mind is operating in a different way. And your ability to access the movement that you have trained gets greatly reduced, if not completely diminished. That's why we see sometimes players make beautiful swings on the range. They go on the course and their swing goes straight back to the old way.
They're not practicing then in terms of what they're doing with the short game, what they're really attempting to accomplish on the golf course, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, you have a lot of great quotes in the book, and and I went back last night. And I wanted to make sure I sort of picked one or two, and I had told you about one of them. But so here's 2 quotes from the book, and you've actually addressed some of one of them already, but the first one just blew me away when I first read it. So these 2 quotes are here. Whenever your desire to hit your best shot goes up, the chance of your old swing coming back increases dramatically.
Yeah.
And that really kind of threw me into another world. So talk about that one for a second.
Well, yeah, I suppose that goes on to the last point nicely, which, there's two ways of looking at that. But yeah, your ability to change your swing. If you're thinking about the result and you want to hit a good result, then your attention will be on whatever was linked, or your movement will be whatever was linked to that attention. So if you think about the target, you're very likely to produce the motion that was built in with the target, which is your old swing. If you want to change your swing, then you have to what we call decouple. That could be taking away the target momentarily. It doesn't have to be necessarily, but a good way of speeding up the process is taking away the target momentarily with a net, or simply deciding that the result is not important to you as you're changing the swing. And that's the biggest thing that, I think the people who can change the most and improve their swing the most just have this ability to switch off the result and say, no, this is compartmentalized to changing my swing. This is what I'm doing right now. The result is not important. Whereas most amateurs cannot separate the two. And then as a result, never able to change their swing.
And now the second one, and you've talked about this probably 4 or 5 times already, but people probably weren't listening in the context, and that is quantify your practice in some way. I mean, in the book, you say this is the one thing you wish everybody for sure would get out of the book. Yeah.
Well, just rather than beating balls, the first step is beating balls and knowing what's happening. So that's better than just beating balls. So whatever you can do to quantify it, usually that involves feedback. If you're not having feedback, you can't quantify it. Now, there's obviously lots of really advanced ways of getting feedback at the moment. You have TrackMan, you could get feedback on your path, or even performance feedback. So a TrackMan Combine, for example.
Yeah.
That's a good way of not looking at the numbers, but getting an idea of whether you're improving or not. But you could look at, say, Face Strike again. How do you get feedback on it? We use some Dr. Scholl's foot spray or a marker pen. You're automatically getting feedback as to where you've hit it exactly on the face. And then the next step is to quantify that in some way, rather than just noticing what's happening, which is, to be honest, is a good step. Write down in a way. So I get a lot of players, I'll draw a circle around their sweet spot, a certain size, maybe the size of a €1 coin for better players. And I'll say, right, let's do 10 shots, see how many you can get in that. And then we keep repeating. So then that goes into the gamifying. So once you've got the feedback, you've got the quantification, then you turn it into a game. And then all of a sudden motivation comes back. And that really motivates people to come back and practice, because they're like, oh, right, I'm seeing what I'm doing. And yeah, let's see if I can beat it. Let's see if I can beat my record. So, I looked at a lot of computer games and say, well, why are they so addictive? And they do that. They quantify things and you see progressive improvement with it.
So our little kids that are doing that are practicing golf kind of things, and they don't know it. I never thought about quantifying things as an element of why some of these computer games get into it. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, get more points. Even on Tiger Woods, the golf game. You're lowering your score on it for a start. Obviously, that's the golf quantification, but. You're also adding certain skills as well. You could buy power or buy accuracy and things like that. And you see things go up, you see things get better. I think that's really motivating. But yeah, with the kids, for beginners, we might say, right, here's a bunch of pink tees. Here's 10 tees lined up. If you hit it out of the ground, you get to keep it. And then at the end, we say, all right, how many did you hit out of the ground? We work in teams together. And see which team hits the most. I know there's this element at the moment of keeping everything non-competitive with juniors and things, but they love it, and they all want to come back. And if it's working in teams, none of them get upset when their team doesn't do as well. So,
well, We're almost at the end, and I got to say one thing related to this last question. I love what you've been doing in your blog posts, and everybody listening to this, I don't think I'll have to say it again. One of the things I hope you do is read Adam's blog posts. They are just like a sort of mini source of learning about how to improve, and really interesting. But at the end of every one now, you put Cliff Notes. I thought that was brilliant. To kind of put, it just grabs somebody because everybody knows what a Cliff Note is,
Yeah.
But I thought at the end here, maybe if everybody was going to carry a little card in their bag, or a 3x5 card, and they were going to write something about it that they would look back and remind themselves about in terms of how their practice, what would you want them to put on that card?
Well, I think the more, there's so many things.
Yeah.
So many things that I could put into a book. But if I was to put it on a little card, and these things, the more you get of them, the better your practice. If you just get one, brilliant. If you get them all, even better. And they're quite small things, quite easy to do, but very powerful when you actually do them. So have a goal for each practice session. Don't just turn up going, is this going to be a good day or not? Because ultimately you're not in control of that. We're not in control of how good our coordination is on a day. But if you set a goal for each practice session, whether it's I'm going to do 100 reps on the grip change that my teacher gave me, or 100 reps looking at face strike. So have a goal, then have a plan for that goal, which could be I'm going to use differential practice, or going to use a marker pen to see where I'm hitting. Get feedback. Again, that's using the marker pen. So have a goal, have a plan, get feedback, quantify that feedback. So write it down somewhere how you did. Gamify that quantification then. So turn it into a game, do 10-ball tests, see if you can beat the last 10. And then the last one I would say is try to randomize practice, because we tend to, I would say when I'm on the range teaching and watching other people practice, 99.9% of them are standing in the same place with the same club, hitting the same shot to the same target, and then wondering why they're not improving as quick, or wondering why it's not transferring to the golf course. So a little tip that you can do is just change the club almost every time. Even if it's once every 2 balls, that's an improvement. But change the club, change the shot every time, change the target. It will mean that you perform worse on the range. But suck it up, because the benefits are of it. Long-term learning improvements. I'm talking, when I say long-term, it's actually after a day or two, you start to see the improvements. And you actually improve while you're sleeping after you've done that type of practice. It's called delayed learning, and there are a few scientific studies out there showing that to be the case. So when they tested next day, the ones who did block practice over and over again, they lose all their learning. The ones who did randomized practice actually perform better next day. So it's like they learned something overnight. It's crazy.
Well, I think that sounds like a great card. Maybe it's a new blog post. Who knows?
Yeah. Perhaps, yeah.
Well, Adams, it's a delight to have gotten to talk with you. And we didn't even touch on things like ball flight laws and things that are huge in your book. One of the best reasons, besides all the things on motor learning in Adam's book, The Practice Manual, to buy the book is simply at the beginning to read the first chapter or two on the chapter on ball flight laws. So I really recommend that people buy this book, The Practice Manual. You can get it on Amazon.com, probably get it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Adam's website is www.adamyounggolf.com. He also has a free ebook on his website called Golf Hacks. That is a terrific book. The tip on hit to the back of the green instead of hitting hitting to the front. I saw our member guest tournament. A couple people, if they would have done that, it might have made a difference for them. And in my own game. And again, if you get into his site, read his blog posts. They are really interesting but valuable learning tools. So, Adam, guess what? We got Skype to work for 40 minutes.
Amazingly, yeah.
Because in the background, people don't know Adam's been fighting his computer for weeks, I guess, and so the golf gods shone on us this morning.
Well, the internet gods,
yeah, our internet gods. So thanks again for doing this. If you ever have an idea for something you want to talk more about, get in touch. I would love to do it again.
It's great. It's good fun. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Take care.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Thanks again, Adam. As we close today, I just want to repeat here what Adam said at the end about some things you can do in your practice to make it more effective. Have a goal for each session. Have a plan for that goal. Get feedback when you practice and quantify that feedback. Write it down. Maybe create a little notebook. Gamify what you quantify. Turn practice into a game. Do little games where you test yourself and continue to test yourself on, say, your short game shots, your putting. And try to randomize your practice. This is one of the really big ones. Use different clubs. Every shot or so, change to a different club. So for more information about Adam Young and Adam Young Golf, including his weekly blog posts that are excellent, go to www.adamyounggolf.com. And in addition to recommending that you purchase his book, The Practice Manual, and read it, it's terrific, he also has a free ebook on his site called Golf Hacks. There are some terrific suggestions there. I keep using the word terrific. I'm sorry. That's one of my things, I guess. There are some excellent suggestions for ways to improve how you're scoring in that little ebook, Golf Hacks. And you can also download that free ebook from his website. Well, that's it for today. Next week, not in 2 weeks, next week, I'm excited to get to talk with a good friend, Jerry Lovell. He is the Master Club Performance Specialist at the PGA Center for Golf Learning and Performance in St. Lucie, Florida. We'll talk about his thoughts on how he and others have mastered the art of custom club fitting. See you next Monday.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com